So I
period.
fell in love with basketball as a result of all of that, I would
At
say.
13 years old.
13 years old, I remember giving up. Like, my mom had to convince me to go to prom because there was a basketball tournament
Hmm.
and I wanted to go to the basketball tournament. And my mom was like, you're not, you're not missing prom. So I was at the point where, 14 years old, 15, 16, I fell in love with the game every weekend. Every time I had a chance, my dad and I would get up to go to the gym to work out. Then I started dunking, and that
I
was
was
it.
about to ask you about that because
Yeah,
you
that was
dunked for the first time at 15, right?
yeah. So I dunked in a game at 15, but I started dunking at 14. Um, and then it was
That's incredible.
yeah, that was a wrap after that. My whole goal was just to dunk before my brothers did at their age until they were 16. So uh yeah, so I just fell in love with the game. And in my household, we were hoopers. It wasn't like, oh, you're a woman or, oh, you're boy, the boys get this and you don't get this. No, it was like, you're a hooper. Like, we're going to go to the gym. We're going to work out. We're going to do these things. And early on in my childhood, like, our Saturdays were going to the basketball courts as a family and like just shooting. And they would
So
let
you
me
were
play
playing the game before you started playing the game,
a
right?
hundred. Yeah, I've
Like
been at tournaments. I mean, I was at tournaments since I was 6 weeks old.
okay,
Watching my brothers play and shooting at halftime. And then I would love running out on the court at like halftime and everybody would like look at me shoot. And that was like my time. So I used
right.
to practice the moves I was going to do when I went out. And so I just loved it. I loved the game. I loved it. I loved playing it by myself. I loved playing it in front of people. Um, it's always just been like that first, like that first love.
Got it. But then 13, 14 was when that click happened and you're like, oh, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to see
Yeah,
how far I can take it.
13, 14 was when the click happened. And also, I got pretty good at basketball at 13, 14 years old. I started getting a little bit of attention of, when I would go to tournaments and stuff like that. But yeah, I would say 13, 14 years old was when I did my first national tournament in Florida and I started getting ranked and all that stuff. And so it just like fueled my fire even more.
Gotcha. So I think I read you're the only, I don't know if it's high school basketball player or female basketball player to win 2 state titles. Am I making that up?
I mean, I'm sure there's been others that have won 2 state titles, but
Oh, no. Let me rephrase that. Player of the year. Sorry. National player of the year is what I meant to say.
maybe I don't know, but just yeah, I don't know about that.
That's
But
fucking insane, Candace. Like, I mean, that's incredible. Like, you didn't start really playing until like 14. And 3 years later, you're National Player of the Year. I mean, that's pretty phenomenal. I mean, you don't have to be so humble, right? Like, that's fucking.
no, I just love playing basketball, to be honest with you. And I think that's where if I'm really being honest and I really have regrets, is I didn't really like take in the moment, is because I just was so hungry for the next. Like, I was so hungry for like accomplishing something next and doing something next, and that I don't know if I really took in
Right.
what was being accomplished.
Do you think that's partly because your brother was at this point, he's like in the league and he's like this dude and he's doing his thing. So you see like the heights that he's reached. So you're like, yeah, this is cool, but look at big bro. Did that play a part in it at all?
I think it's partly because I saw myself in that situation far before I was. Like, I couldn't not see myself doing that.
Right.
So it was like, that was, I don't know, I dreamed of it, if that makes sense. I was obsessed with it. And I would put myself in the situation, but when the situation came, I feel like I don't know. And I also, I mean, listen, I had to go to the dinner table and the breakfast table with my family, and they'll humble you real quick if you start good at
Yeah.
something. So it just was one of those things where we were always humble in our household. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like to me it's a combination of humility, which is awesome, but also just like you saw your future, so to speak, right? So like two-time player of the year in high school, whatever that thing was, or college ball, like you knew in your mind where you were going to go. And like you manifested it in a way. So it's kind of like, and you probably also like in psychologically figuring out your path forward, you'd already processed winning the player of the year in high school and all these things happening. So when it actually did happen, you'd already kind of maybe had a reaction to it prior because it was expected. Is that kind of what you're saying?
I won't say that I had like already told myself that that's what I was going to do, but I had envisioned like that being my goal. Me being in those situations, but also like much more. Like I was like, I'm only player of the year in high school.
Right.
Like, what is that in college? So it was
Right.
always those next tests that I would always ask myself. Like, okay, after we won, it was crazy. Like, even after we won the first WNBA championship, and it took a long time to get to the top of winning. It was 8 years of me being in the league without a championship. And I remember we won the championship, and I was like, we got to do this again.
Mm-hmm.
My teammates were like, you're crazy. I'm like, we got to do this again because this just feels like so great. Like I can't even feels, and losing sucks. So, and it's like, I've always been like that. I don't know.
I think it's a good way to be. That's how winners win, right? You have to have a winner's mentality. And like Kobe, like once you get that taste, you got to keep working for it more and more. But before we go to the pros, tell me a little bit about your choice to go to Tennessee, Pat Summitt, like just that whole experience. And obviously she's such an icon. I have to assume she had a pretty impactful impression on your life.
100%. Pat Summitt, to know her is to love her. To know her is to know her. Didn't matter the situation that she was in, she was always her. And I think that's one thing that I noticed from the get-go was it didn't matter what situation you put her in, corporate, in front of the team, as a mom at home, you're going to get Pat Summitt and you're going to get all of her. And that's what I respected about her the most is, and not just in situations that are, places, in situations in life as well, meaning good, bad, ugly, you're going to get coach. Yes, does she go through the downs where she needs to have time by herself and then she can come back and compose herself? Yes, but she is Pat Summitt no matter what. And whether she's winning banners and cutting down nets or whether she's battling Alzheimer's and, struggling with that awful disease. So I think it's just that's what I've recognized is truly like winning is like doing it on and off the court and doing it as you authentically. And she's the greatest role model for that. I still live by, I mean, she's right here over my shoulder while I'm talking to you. She's all over my office. My kids know her. I quote her probably 5-6 times a day. I have her bracelet on constantly. I have a tattoo on my arm.
Oh, wow.
Commemorates, what the words that she said, which is basically like, when life gets tough, left foot, right foot, breathe, repeat. And it's like tattooed on my arm. You put one foot in front of the other and you get to the next minute, get to the next hour, get to the next day. And that's how progress is made. And I think sometimes in this day and age, we got to remember when we win, we got to left foot, right foot, breathe, repeat too. Like we can't forget where we came from. We can't forget who got us there. We didn't get there ourselves. So she's a huge impact on my life.